So I'm looking forward to how you lace this intro. Black, Florida, Japan. I want to see your elementary picture, bro. Is Hawaii racist?
Her name tag was NIGA.
Oh my God.
That feeling. People from the mainland come and get shocked. I'm the only one. That's the black experience too.
Does nothing but make you look like an outsider.
I don't even play basketball. You know what I'm saying?
New face, mostly new. You might have seen him in the Pro City video. This is Kenji, the guy behind the camera. Kenji is part of Core Team Hawaii, but you normally don't see him because he's usually back there. And we're going to talk about the black experience in Hawaii. What are we going to call this?
Black experience in Hawaii. I can speak to being black, but I'm also not black, which is what we're going to get into.
Yeah.
Definitions will be challenged. Ideas will be explored.
And you're looking forward to these comments.
Please help us figure out what the black experience is.
This is a fun conversation if you allow it to be one. Mm-hmm. And we like good, stimulating conversation, right?
Yeah.
All right, ready?
Yeah, everything's recording. Okay.
Everything's recording?
Yeah, this time.
How fitting of an opener, the video guy checking on the video stuff.
Making sure, because last time,
yeah. So we tried. Let's start it there. We tried to film this once, and
your boy messed up.
We didn't hit record.
I messed up.
Yeah. So let's talk about being black in Hawaii.
All right.
So your experience is somewhat unique. It's not like you grew up in Mississippi, moved here at 21.
You grew up in the South.
We could get into that. Yeah. You born and raised here. Black dad, Japanese mom. And then, well, let's just get it off. Me, actually born in the South, moved to Hawaii, 12 years old, went to predominantly black school. I showed you my yearbook, yeah? I showed you my yearbook.
It's funny how you stick out, though. We should B-roll that.
You have the picture?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, you can, okay. But we kind of have that inverse experience where, like, I was the Japanese. True. There's no, in Florida where I live, no Japanese Hawaiian kid. Of course, there's white, but
Vietnamese, how you said?
Vietnamese or Filipino. There's just nothing exactly like us. And we had some even conversations recently where I was like, well, I have this depth of experience from living there. But you grew up here. Mm-hmm. At what point were you like, did you see color? What grade? Yeah. Do you remember like a moment or a time or an event where you're like, somebody said something or you just saw something?
Someone said something. If there was no mirrors and no cameras, I wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because I grew up with a Japanese mom, right?
Yeah.
And a Japanese name, Japanese aunties, uncles. Like, I grew up with the Japanese side.
Your dad wasn't around?
Yeah. I mean, I see my brother.
Yeah.
But I think, like, a moment where you're like, oh, I'm black? Because my dad was military, right?
Yeah.
So I had that like ID card that you could get on base and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a reminder. Like, how do I get this access? Oh yeah, because my dad. Oh yeah, because like there's that reminder. Mm-hmm. My siblings as well. I got like half siblings on island too that we grew up with together. So it's like I had those reminders, but as far as my environment reflecting back at me, like my racial identity, we all experience in public, or I guess school at large in Hawaii. Like, kids is nasty and mean, and there's jokes for everybody. So like when it was joke time, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like
what they said, what they.
Or you just.
No, we won't perpetuate.
I won't. There's some funny ones though. I think it'd be funny for us, but I just don't want to repeat it. Like,
right. Well, and let's give context too. Like, we know each other because I graduated from Campbell with your brother. Yeah. You were the year after us, so we knew each other in high school.
We knew the same guys making these jokes.
And so you're talking, guys brought us from Makakilo, Eva Beach, Eva, Ponokai.
Yeah. I feel like put it out there.
Yeah.
Like, you look at how popular comedy shows are.
Yeah.
Now, Netflix specials, right? We need that. Like, let's laugh at a thing.
Right.
Instead of hiding it, feeling ashamed, and like closeting all this. Like, it kind of feels better to put it out there.
Yeah.
Because we have so much different people, and everybody got a joke list for their mom and dad, their food, their accent.
That's the thing about Hawaii is everyone can get it. No matter your race, you can get teased. It's like black and white, not from here, like American, mainland, right?
Yeah.
Except for there's almost this like trauma bonding between Hawaiians and blacks a little bit, right? Whereas like with the white military person, they can't really do, there's not that. You know what I mean?
At large, right? Because we're America.
Yeah.
So I experienced it kind of in Oregon, actually.
Yeah.
When I left here to go Oregon, that was my first time like leaving Hawaii. I mean, I've been to Chicago in the Midwest to visit my dad a lot, like growing up. So that was my way to like plug in to my black side.
Mm-hmm.
And when I moved to the mainland, though, like after graduating from Campbell, then I moved to Oregon. And then the following 5 years in Oregon was like, oh, this is black. You know, like mainland black.
But you
American.
would go to Chicago growing up, right? You
But
said
not
some
extended, though. Huh?
Yeah.
So like living there, I got a little bit more exposure to that, what people think of as African American.
Yeah.
Because in Hawaii, it's so like, well, first of all, I'm not quote unquote black in Hawaii because like majority of people here, I'm multi-ethnic, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just one of a number of things that you could say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so because I think Hawaii, the environment is such that there's just a higher level of sensitivity to diversity, people can say like, I know you are black, but your name's Japanese and I know your mom, or I can at least tell.
Do you think sensitivity is the right adjective today? Are we
I guess not
higher
today.
level sensitive?
What would we say?
Or higher
Like,
level open? Higher level
no, I would say like exposure.
accepting?
Exposure.
Yeah.
Like you just see more kinds of people's faces, smells, foods, and like it's in the street names. Like you're just exposed to non-English things.
Right,
and
right.
like a little bit more exposure, I guess. The average person on the street here has more exposure to more. They got a bigger palette. Like the Asian influence in Hawaii is such that Kenji in Hawaii growing up
Your name is Kenji too.
is,
yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like he's Japanese off the bat.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
what? Oh, he looks though. He's taller, he's dark. So he's Blasian. It's easier to draw that bridge here, I think.
Yeah.
But when I'm like in Oregon, where I'm like, oh, this is where all the stereotypes of the like mainland, Mexican, white, black, like the division. You know when you like checking off like boxes on a census sheet or like standardized test or something, right? A lot of times that doesn't make, or for me growing up, it didn't make sense because I didn't.
Like who
I
cares?
don't see these boxes on the thing.
You don't see that when you look around the classroom.
No,
You see
it's not clear. This is a mix of just brown people everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But over there, then I'm like, oh, here's the boxes.
Right.
The Asians, right? The like filling out a census. It felt like just
so
walking
it
on
felt more divisive there?
It felt more like, I don't want to say clear, but you know what I'm saying? Like eye test.
Yeah.
It felt easier.
Yeah.
And that's why I felt like when you introduce someone like me who's mixed, brown, like in South Africa, they have a whole class colored, right?
Yeah.
Here we kind of have our own. It's not labeled like it is in South Africa, but like we just accept that there's a lot of mixed people. I think it was real clear when I was in the, what's it called? Shout out to Portland State University. That's where I went. So this is Portland, Oregon.
It's woke.
Yes.
But woke meant something different 20 years ago, But
I mean, it wasn't 20 years ago, dog,
great.
but you know what I'm saying? But
20 years.
Oh, damn, it was 20 years ago. You're right. It was still very progressive.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of like effort to celebrate different boxes, you could say.
Right.
And being in Smith, I don't know if it's still called Smith, but it was called Smith Student Union or something. It was one of the main buildings on campus.
Mm-hmm.
Second floor was the Multicultural Center, something like, I'm forgetting the acronyms, you know what it, but basically that's where I was part of the Hawaii Club. Like there was a Somalian, they had their club, the Palestinians, it's a different thing today, but like Filipino club.
Yeah.
So like it was just the UN on the
Yeah.
second floor of Smith, right? And then that's where I'm like, oh, again, it's kind of a version of boxes. This is this, this is this, this is this.
Whereas in Hawaii, you didn't feel that.
It's just more.
It's like we all local people.
Yeah.
But that's growing up here with darker skin. Like growing up here.
True, yeah.
I wanted to ask you. So I understand mainland, there's boxes, there's some good that comes with that because like we maybe celebrate it intentionally, but then there's also some divisiveness that comes with that, it sounds like. But here in Hawaii, how do you think your experience may have differed from like, we went to Campbell.
Yeah.
So you were with Paul and Romeo guys, friends that we went to high school with.
Yeah.
But what about the guy that, got stationed here mid-freshman year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Name isn't Kenji.
Yeah.
Like someone who moves here mid-high school or intermediate.
Yeah.
and they're like of Atlanta, of Chicago, of Texas, they're gonna have a different experience than you, right?
Real
being
different.
Black or African American in Hawaii.
Huge. And I know some who've at that time in Campbell, as well as like since then, talking to people who've experienced, maybe they've been here and it's year 3 in Hawaii, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It echoes, it's kind of the same. And I relate it to my, as we would say, I guess, full Black siblings as well, who live here as well. Like I got them too, to kind of measure, if you will, the experience.
Kaika.
I mean, he's in Chicago.
Oh, he's in Chicago?
Yeah, you met him.
No, but
Shout out to Kaika.
he hits me up on, or like we're connected on social media.
They feel the same thing that anyone coming to Hawaii, gets stationed here, feels. It's like, oh, it's different.
Outsider.
Right? Outsider automatically, because I don't know what it's talking about. I don't get these jokes. And in high school, it's hyper conscious about like humor. We talked about jokes.
Yeah.
But like status, right? And like social standing, basically. Where do I fit in? Who am I going to cruise with at lunch? Like that's heightened in high school. So then it doesn't matter like what you come in, what you look like. It's like you're an outsider. You're not local. I think that's the first barrier.
Yeah.
Local or not. If you can...
Local Black and mainland is different, right?
Very different, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're not like full Black, that's still a little bit different too.
Yeah.
But the main thing is if you're local, or you at least can hang with locals, that's the first barrier. And if you can do that, then your experience is going to be good.
So to what you're saying, like to some degree, even the Filipino kid from California, who's from like Hayward in the Bay Area or Sacramento, is going to come here, and although they might look like the kids in the school, it'll be a unique experience because you mentioned status. Yeah. So like I came from the mainland, and I was 7th grade, and so like I'm starting to want to dress a certain way. So it's like Tim's, like a Guess and Calvin Klein, like we wanted like a Guess shirt and like some baggy jeans and like Tim's or like Nikes or whatever. And then you come to Hawaii, whether you're Filipino, Black, white, like that does nothing but make you look like an outsider. What are you wearing? There's red dirt. It's hot. Why are you trying to iron? Like those things you would do to climb your status ladder in Hayward, California or Sacramento, it's different here.
Very different. Yeah. And if you can adapt and make that adjustment, do that pivot, right? It doesn't really matter at that point, because we've seen examples of people who are very much not local but fit in. I mean,
the same for adults. Probably the harder for high school kids. But
at least they're a little bit more malleable. They don't have as much experiences versus like right now, 30-something-year-old who's kind of like set in his ways, or a retiree coming here. Like in general, adults are more kind of set in their ways. Yeah, yeah. If you're a teenager looking for that kind of acceptance and fitting in, the pressure of fitting in might give you that malleability to be like, okay, I'm gonna get some slippers. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm gonna start calling them flip flops.
Roll with the punches a little bit.
But it's the ones with resistance who get in fights and get picked on, and like. So I had the advantage of being born here. So even if I look like I'm not.
Yeah, but you wearing Aloha Shoyu shirt, my dog.
Hey, you know what I mean, dog.
Shout outs to information.
Hey, shout out information. Yeah. So that's my pass already. Just get one of these shirts and you fit right in. Just to the point of like your racial identity fitting in with the environment you're in. I knew a guy who was Chinese, Japanese, half. But this is in Japan.
Oh, it's in Japan.
So he comes to Japan. Again, he looks like a local, right?
Okay.
Language barrier, frustrating. In fact, it's even more frustrating than my language barrier for me.
They expect him to speak.
Because they just come off the bat like, why don't you understand? Come on, like the expectation on his shoulders is a lot heavier than the expectation on someone like my shoulders. Right. So the fact that I can speak, I just exceed all expectations, and it's even more like celebrate. Whoa! There's that double-edged sword to it. So if you come into Hawaii and you just look like a local, and people start.
Well, that was me. So to give context, Kenji lived in Japan for 8 years.
8 years.
Met your wife there. Yeah. You have 2 kids who are multiracial. Yeah. So that's what the Japan reference. So you really are worldly. So you don't really come at it from like I was raised in Atlanta, I got stationed in Hawaii kind of perspective. Like you have a little bit of a different.
Born and raised here, right?
Yeah.
So when I'm 17, I'm like leaving the nest. Then the next 5 years is in Oregon. Then after
Which is its own thing. Oregon's not Oregon's like unlike a lot of the country. You know, it's its own.
That's the thing. I'm going from like an outlier to another outlier.
Yeah.
Right. And then from there, I go to Japan for 8 years.
Yeah.
And during that time in Japan, I went all over the world. And then I came back home when it was time to have kids because I wanted to raise our kids in this environment.
Me too.
That is what created us. Mm-hmm. But it also has, like, to the earlier point of you're just around, you're exposed to more diversity, even though it's Asian diversity slanted.
Asian dominant.
I mean? Asian dominant diversity, but still, I think other big metropolises in our country would rival the diversity of Hawaii. You'd get different kinds of European.
Oh, I said, the Bay. When I lived in San Francisco, I never thought I'd find good food and diversity again. And then I was like, oh yeah, Moroccan. I heard of that. I guess there are Moroccan people. You're from Morocco? Ethiopian food. You're from Ethiopia?
Yeah.
Like Palestinian, Israeli. Like they're all like. You'd meet all these people, way more diverse, better food in my opinion. Hawaii people,
ready, you're getting mad,
DMing me right now. But in the Bay, you could get almost all the things you could get in Hawaii, almost, but so much more.
That's what I mean. Like, and going to Oregon, I was like, I knew there was more. That's why I left in the first place.
Yeah.
But then to be face to face and be having friends, and also playing soccer helped because that's the most popular sport in the world. So like, our team was also a mini UN. Right. So literally, I mean, maybe we'll pull up a B-roll of it, like, and all the people and then the flags of where they're from.
You guys will rep your flag?
Huge. And like, if I was and I've been playing soccer my whole life, so like soccer teams in Hawaii was not that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So diversity is so subjective, I guess, what you're going after. But if we're talking like hardcore, like DNA, you could make arguments on both sides. But my subjective experience growing up here, going to Oregon, Japan, and back here, in that experience, I was the blackest in Japan.
Oh, LeBron, Kobe.
Yeah, I was LeBron, Usain Bolt, and Obama all at once. I was because to them, right?
Especially not like you were in the city. You were out in the
I was in the country.
Yeah.
So I was all of those people, right? And it's weird because in Hawaii, people are like, that's racist. There's so many times in Japan where I'm like, yo, good thing that you said that in Japan.
Yeah.
Because if you take that statement outside of Japan, you get in trouble. Right? Especially today when anything you say can be scrutinized by anyone, any place, anytime, right? That's why it's so subjective with what is offensive. I would say it's an evolving thing because it's still changing. Mm-hmm. Before we started recording, I was talking about explaining to my daughters who are black.
Yeah.
But they pull way more Japanese, right? But they're black.
Right.
That's the black experience too. I'm thinking about how I'm teaching, educating, sharing what is being black.
Are they asking?
February this year. No.
Oh, because
they came. Yeah.
Black History Month.
The oldest one came back like, I don't want to be black. And
I don't want to be black?
What? We was laying down, like, boom, finish reading the book. Yeah. We going. Now I'm just waiting to go sleep, basically. And I thought she was asleep, but then she was like, Daddy, she said something like, Daddy, I don't want to be black. Just threw me off. I like, I thought we was catching Z's already, but I just left it open. Like, why did you say that?
Yeah. And
she's 6. She just turned 6 at this time. And
okay, that's about Dane.
She's like, because they don't, like, they can't go to the fun places. That's what she said. Like, yeah, like, the blacks can't go to the fun places. And I'm confused. I'm like, not going to sleep anytime soon now. And I'm looking at this conversation that I know it needs to be had. I just wasn't ready for it. Right. You know what I'm saying? Being a girl dad, I was dreading the other conversations coming down, like when it's teenage time and like boyfriends and stuff. But now I'm like, here we are. This is an important conversation. Needs to be had. And now I'm getting more information from her. She says black people can't go to fun places. Oh yeah, it's Black History Month. Oh yeah, probably at school she saw something.
They're talking about Rosa Parks and.
I figured out. You probably watched some civil rights movement.
Yeah.
You watched something at school.
Okay, yeah.
Where segregation.
Pre-segregation.
You know what I'm saying?
Stuff,
blacks only, whites only.
Yeah.
She probably saw something like that, and saw the whites going to everywhere, and the blacks having to go to that water fountain or not going here. what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
for her, she's like, they can't go to the fun places.
Yeah.
For us adults, and you could even argue like different generations. Like if I asked my dad or somebody, you know, it'd be different. But like
that changes a lot.
for me, growing up black in Hawaii, going through the public education system in Hawaii, the information and education that I received about the civil rights movement was largely, you know, during like Martin Luther King. I have a dream.
So you don't ever remember feeling that?
I remember memorizing the I have a dream speech just because I felt compelled to. And I felt like, you know, as a young teenage boy with growing up single parent household, you know, my mom is Japanese,
Right,
Japanese American. She's born and raised here, not Japanese.
Yeah.
But like, I look around, dad's not there. I got a brother. Nobody in my neighborhood is like, quote unquote, black, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know where to go to get this information. And at school, it's very, you know, surface, like, oh, Martin Luther King, there was this, there was that, Montgomery.
Right.
So then I felt kind of compelled to dig in, like maybe that identity searching moment of your teenage years, right? Who am I type of thing.
But like you never felt, it sounds like she was made to feel disadvantaged as a result
My
of.
daughter?
Yeah.
Well,
You never felt that in Hawaii, like disadvantaged?
I think that speaks to a larger narrative about being black in America, which is such that, you know, this get down a rabbit hole of politics and Kanye West and all of that, because it's different spokes of that wheel.
I always felt it was advantage. Well, I don't want to make it
An
about my
advantage
experience, but to
being-
be black.
No.
But because of where I lived and my circumstances, you weren't black, you weren't cool, like
See,
on the mainland, where I
but
lived in the mainland.
to me, it wasn't even like a cool or not cool. It was just a question mark.
Yeah.
So my curiosity took over versus like my feelings of insufficientness or being like, this happened to my people and my history is being a slave. And, you know, I didn't have those thoughts at that time. It was just more of a question mark, like a blaring question mark. Because
Yeah.
I look around, I didn't have that kind of like people around me to ask.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, media wasn't or information wasn't as accessible as it was today.
Things weren't as polarized.
So I'm
back
just
then as, no.
reading the book, I memorized the speech, and I knew it was important. I knew someone assassinated this guy. You know, like I knew these things, so I could go down that journey myself. And I remember my mom, like, she was crying when she came in and she said, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know what book it was, but it had the speech in it."
Mm-hmm.
And I just memorized it just from reading it over and over. And I was like, "Oh, I just memorized this speech." And I did it for her. And then she like cried. And I remember that,
Yeah.
you know? And I was thinking, oh no, is this the other part of it now? She's 6 at this time. Part of me doesn't even want to give her this toolkit of race, of labels.
Yeah, like
You
we
know what
had
I mean?
plenty of time for that.
Yeah.
Let's just stay colorblind and innocent.
If I give you a hammer, everything looks like nails,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So if I give you all these labels, the boxes, if
Yeah.
I put this in front of you, you're going to see the world through these boxes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to do that. I understood, like, okay, she probably saw something in Black History Month, Civil Rights Movement, all that. That's why she's saying this. That's her perception of whatever she saw. And now she's saying it to Daddy. And I know she knows Daddy looks like different eye test, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, you know what? Back in that time, people would make decisions based on how you looked.
Yeah.
You know? So if you looked a certain way, you had certain options and places you could go. And if you look this way, then you can go different places.
Yeah.
It's very different now. What you're talking about is a long time ago, before even Daddy was born.
Yeah.
I didn't give her the boxes, you know? But I was
Right.
like, that's how people look, based on how people look. She didn't like ask any more questions after that. I'm still like, oh man, I know I gotta follow up. I know I gotta tell my wife. Like I know I gotta visit this. And so we kind of did in the following days and weeks and stuff. But the larger picture that I really thought it pointed out was, you know, it's just it's identity at large. We see people today with, you can label yourself something and and take on an identity and have a bunch of people patting your back, supporting you, raising you up, right? Versus an identity that you're born with, what we then label as check this box, that box, that box. Putting that kind of concept in a 6-year-old's head, you know, there's decisions people make and there's things that you're born with.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that they will experience racism in Hawaii. Is Hawaii racist? Like, let's just talk about that, because, and I'll give some context too. I was born in Florida, Pensacola, Florida. If people don't know about Florida, like Pensacola, Florida is essentially Alabama. And so you mentioned Montgomery, like, it's not far.
Yeah.
And I grew up, and until I moved to Hawaii at 12. So half my childhood was like that. I try not to take on a victim mentality, but I had it worse than everyone. I wasn't black, I wasn't white. There was smaller clusters of Filipino and Vietnamese. I wasn't those either. Although after coming to Hawaii for vacation and going back, I was like, who looks like Vietnamese?
You identify with,
I learned that. I'll speak that. I can get my hair cut like with the thing. I was like, let me go hang out with you guys for that year before I moved to Hawaii. And I kind of took on that identity because I was the only brown thing. But I grew up in deep racist South and then moved to Hawaii. And a couple of things. When you said, it's almost worse if you look like you're supposed to talk like and you don't. When I first went to Irima, so I didn't know you in 7th grade. You were there, I guess. But we, like, 7th and 8th grades were, like, kept apart. But I remember my friend Jolani, she's like, wow, you freaking HAOLE. You sound like, you look like us, but you're not like us or something. She later became my friend because I started to sound like people from Hawaii and stuff, right? I got it in Hawaii. I got it in the mainland. I joined the Coast Guard and had different experiences there. Like, I feel like I understand racism from my own perspective. Now, I don't know the black experience because I haven't actually been black, even though I went to those schools that were predominantly. I don't even really know the white experience, even though I'm half white, because I've never just looked like a white person in America or Hawaii. This channel is about, we're trying to bring value to people, thinking about Hawaii, looking at Hawaii, or local people, just enjoying these conversations. So regarding Hawaii still has racism and even systematic racism, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying that from a victim perspective. But it just is what it is. Like, I was in the woke Bay Area. So I lived in Alameda, right by Oakland and Berkeley. And then I commuted to Stanford. You can't get more woke than that. Like, it's just, you cannot get more woke than that.
Okay. Even Portland?
No, like Portland like learns it from Berkeley and Oakland, I feel, or it's at least on a similar level. It's like, and when I came home, people, and I got a job when I first came home, people were comfortable saying certain things, not necessarily racist or N-word, but in the workplace, they might say something. I'd be like, you can say that? And they'd be like, chill. Same, like even barbecuing, I would hear maybe like an N-word drop. Yeah. And it was so, at the time especially, it was so like, I was like, somebody even call the cops, like you better chill. And these are good people. Now, I know there's probably some black people, military, thinking about PCSing to Hawaii. They're listening to that. Like, you saying someone that used the N-word is a good person? I know I know this guy. The guy I'm thinking about, he's like a good guy. He would help you. But we live in a kind of archaic state in some senses, and a good human using the word in California could never happen. What's happening here? Like, I saw a thing, they did a test in California. They sent out 20 resumes and they put like Joe on one and then Jose on the other, added an S on Joe, just got more callbacks. It was identical resume. That kind of stuff happens here. I had here when I used to sell ceiling fans as a 19-year-old, this guy come in the shop and he's like, "What? How long you work over here?" "Only 2 years. You don't know anything then. What? Let me talk to a manager. You don't know what you're talking about." When he's leaving, I go, "Oh, here's my card, sir." He goes, "Okahashi. Oh, I'm going to ask for you next time." "Oh, I know. Oh, your father Japanese. Oh, yeah, next time I'm going to come you. You guys get commission, huh?" Like, I was like, "Oh, really? That's okay." I've seen these things in Hawaii. We know. We talk about it off camera, especially. Hawaii has its racism. It's both, like, guys, it's 2023. Like, drop the N-word. Like let's progress a bit. It's both that. Like, we're both archaic. And also, it's lighter. It's like, I can breathe. I don't have to tiptoe. I'm not on eggshells everywhere I go, the way you might feel in some parts of California or Portland. So it's refreshing. And it's also like, but we could do better, Hawaii. Come on.
Back to the high school kind of thing where it's cooler to be associated with who's cool on TV. At that time, you know what I mean?
90s,
like, this is
we're 90s
hip-hop.
Kids.
You know what I mean? Like, so to be closer to hip-hop, just from my DNA, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's certain advantages, you could say advantage, but that depends on who you're around. So, like, okay, here we go. Kapolei basketball courts. You ever played there Thursday nights?
Thursday nights,
yeah.
So, I don't know if it's still Thursday night, but it used to be.
Okay, so Thursday nights, Kapolei.
They pick you first.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? I don't even play basketball.
I seen you hoop, dog.
I don't even play basketball. But your boy's not sitting on the bench. You know what I mean? Like, I'll take it. You know? I get to play, but I don't play. I play soccer, right? So that's an advantage for me. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Somewhere else, it might not be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What a lot of people from the mainland come and get shocked by is like, first, like, oh, I'm a minority now.
They've never, especially a white person, they've never
felt,
had it.
Obviously not all, but like, they come here and they're like, I'm a minority right off the bat. Standing in line at Safeway, I'm looking around. How you look in your yearbook? Like that's how they feel.
I was in Florida.
You know what I mean?
Nobody looks like me.
Nobody. I'm the only one. That feeling, first you encounter, right?
Yeah.
And then you either accept and move on, or you kind of just resist and hold on to what you got, or you find your little clusters. And I've experienced that like inside outside thing, both in Oregon and Japan. But like here.
Is it racist here?
It's the premise of racism is intent, though.
That's why I said that guy that used the N-word when I first moved back home.
Yeah.
He's barbecuing. He's using it. And I'm straight out of woke California. And I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
See, the intent piece is...
But I knew his intent. I knew his heart. But you're not going to explain that to the listener from Atlanta who's like, no, hell no. That's never okay. And they're not wrong either.
Real story?
They're not wrong either. I'm just, it's nuance, right?
So are you connected to the actual sounds? My bet is no. The actual sound of the N-word is not what's offensive to you.
No, like is the F word a sin if you don't speak English?
That's what I'm getting to.
There's no connotation.
I was at an AU store. AU is one of the big cell phone providers in Japan. There's Docomo, AU. Part of my role was to help new like English teachers who were coming, kind of onboard them, because my language ability was such that I could do that. Yeah. I was like their mentor or senpai, you know what I mean? So and these processes take like an hour and a half. And the person who was helping us was helping Japanese person across, who we were sitting down doing, cell phone contracts, setting it up, providing all the paperwork. It takes a while. Her name tag was NIGA.
Oh. No, seriously. No, but
I'm saying, like, it's not the sound.
Yeah.
That is offensive. Again, it's the intent. It's the meaning, the purpose behind it. Am I using the sound of this word to hit you, like to attack you, to establish some dominance, to dig up, to peel back a scab? Like, is it just...
Am I calling you boy? Or am I saying, like, what's up, my boy?
Exactly. That's why, like, words, to me, I'm more, I guess now I can use the word sensitive to it, because I've learned the language as an adult.
All right.
And so I'm very sensitive to just how people deal with language, period.
Here's a good question. Do you think you'd have this openness about all of this? Let's say you still went to Portland and you still went to Japan, but you were raised in like Mississippi or Chicago. Would you be as open, like, no, it's the intent behind the word? Or would you feel different? Because your experiences might have been different.
Tell that lady working at AU, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's her family name. There's a lot of...
How you say it?
Well, the pronunciation is just ni-ga. So there's a lot of... So niga-san. That's what we... Niga-san. Niga. It's a little bit different than the ni. The vowel pronunciation a little different. Basically, language, you can't separate language from culture, is what I'm trying to say. And so when you take the N-word in what we're talking about, like in Hawaii or America, you're talking about the history, the culture that's attached to that word.
So you can't just
separate it.
Your reaction is based off your mindset and your past experience, right?
And yeah, if my past experience was growing up where Pensacola, Alabama or something, would it be different?
You might not be okay with it the same way, right?
I've met Black African Americans one was from New York. We talked about that episode. And, they just laughed. Yeah. They laughed. I can't say anything about their experience that made them end up laughing. Because at the end of the day, I mean, it's still kind of like...
Yeah.
I've never experienced that in Hawaii, for example. No one's called me the N-word with that intent behind it in Hawaii.
Oh, really?
But weirdly enough, it's happened in Japan.
I feel like I saw that happen to your brother in Campbell in our high school.
To me, though.
Yeah.
And that's partly due to the fact that maybe I don't 100% represent that
You're
some
chill
people.
too, though. I think it's your personality too. You're chill.
Yeah.
So, you remember in high school there was a time we had this huge riot. They shut down the schools, and it was the black crowd, but not, it was like the military crowd. G Building had problems with a certain rival local gang, Ever Beach.
Yeah.
And then the Samoans had a beef. Somehow it sparked with Makakilo. And Makakilo and Ever Beach were all in one school at the time.
Yeah.
And it became this like racial war.
I remember that.
They shut down the school. It was like on a Wednesday. You couldn't come back to school till next week. They're like, no one come to school.
That was a big one.
It was a big one.
Yeah.
If we're freshmen or sophomores, I'm only 2-3 years removed from the mainland. Like, I have more experience with these people than the ones that look like me, And I saw that, like, they don't understand each other. There's different styles. There's just a different culture. It's like if you took two totally random countries, like Iceland and freaking Zimbabwe or something, and said, here, go live in a box or go to a school together or something. Like,
we did have a high population too, so that
a lot of military back then.
Yeah.
And I saw how they just didn't understand each other. And I still see that today as an adult. Like, I'll meet someone cool from like New York or Boston or something, and they have this, or the South. Like in the South, they have these really like, everything's a joke. Like everything's an idiom. Everything's a saying. Everything's like Jason Williams, white chocolate basketball player, Sacramento Kings. And they were asking him in an interview, like, hey, but could they keep up with you though? It was Steven Jackson. He's like, could they keep up? He's like, man, they had a better chance of pissing in a hot sauce bottle than to keep up with me. Like in the South, everything's like sarcastic.
Yeah.
And then, but if you bring that to Hawaii, where you don't even show emotion yet, Guam, like Japanese, and like, you don't even turn on your personality until we've made this like nonverbal agreement that we're comfortable, and then we'll turn on. Like then we'll joke around. So if you bring that Southern sarcasm, but I look at it and I'm like, Southern hospitality and aloha, they're so similar. They're both like, hey, let's maybe go church, let's feed you, let's barbecue, let's drink, let's fish, let's hunt. Like, you're so similar, but you guys can't see each other. But because I had two different upbringings, I could see it. Me moving back here, now granted, this is what I now consider home, because I moved here 12 years old, only left to go to the Coast Guard, then come back and raise my kids. I consider Hawaii home, as if I were born and raised here, although now as an adult, I can kind of celebrate the diverse background I have. I think it's better. If you can roll with the punches, this is an amazing place.
And if we talk about a word, like, it's going to matter if you're majority or minority. And here, we're part of the majority.
Even when you say we, what do you mean?
People of color.
People of color.
People of color.
Yeah.
So,
because you look at my dad, darker than you.
Plenty of people. That's why you can't do the dark test either here, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so many people.
Yeah.
That's darker than me.
Yeah.
That's not black. And I asked my daughter, like, okay, show me black. And is that black? No, it's not. And show me white. Is that white? No, it's not. So it's like, it's a part of her identity though, right? Because who's showing up to pick her up? Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's me. With time though, just like everything, this conversation will be different in 20 years, in 2,000 years, if we're still around. Just like how hip hop, a very black American thing, don't look like hip hop 10, 20 years ago, right? Culture's changing, and with culture, language changes, minds change, people change. So this idea of like being X in Y, that's going to change too. Right.
In summary, would it be fair to say being black in Hawaii, especially if you're raised here, but maybe even if you come here as a kid or even as an adult, you are quasi, semi part of the majority because you're saying people of color, like colonial European descent. So you're like adjacent majority, like whatever kind of descriptors you want to throw out there. If you try and drop the preconceived notions around, your experiences back home, you might see that Hawaii is a kinder, better place, maybe for you. And it's, if anything, it's more about whether you're local or not. So you aren't local, and that's okay. I wouldn't go to Boston and be like, hey, you guys need to be like me, right? I wouldn't go to Guatemala, to Brazil, to anywhere, and like, hey, you guys need to adjust to my culture.
Right.
So if you come here with that, you might have a great experience as an adjacent, semi, quasi, majority sort of thing, right?
Especially for like ethnical people. You're not half of anything, right? You're full of both. So I'm not half Japanese, half black. I'm Japanese and I'm black, and I'm getting invited to both barbecues.
Yeah.
I have double, not half. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's because I grew up here. I could enjoy
I think
it.
it's both. I think you and your brother just are, tend to be optimists. You guys have that good, bright personalities, but also, growing up here, the brand of that you would have been no matter where you are is this celebratory, multi-ethnic, diverse thing, right?
I want to hear the comments though. Black America and Black Hawaii. Comment on that. I want to hear it in the comments.
Go into the description, go to coreteamhawaii.com, top right corner, book a call, reach out to us for all your real estate needs. If you need anything real estate in Hawaii, even beyond, we want you to think of us first.